You're not gonna see me take this particular guitar for outside shots in the garden. And there's a good reason for that. This is a Murphy Lab aged guitar. It is a unique and extremely brittle finish. It especially reacts to cold and heat. The general idea of it is to make a brand new guitar look 50 or so years older. In this video, I'm gonna tell you everything you need to know about the Murphy Lab and their aging process. To give you a better idea of what the Murphy Lab aging is, I'm gonna use this 1959 Les Paul Standard Green Lemon Fade from their light age trim. The only thing that is swapped are the pickups for that modern sound.
All luthiers and restoration people have fantasized about recreating an authentic, real finish instead of a new finish and then trying to make it look old. I developed the aging from my years of experience with authentic, real, original vintage instruments, always being intrigued by the finish, what happens to it over time, and wondering if I could also add that as a feature to the historic Les Pauls and all the instruments, really. I want a guitar to look old as soon as I open the case. The wear on the neck, I'm really familiar with where it happens, but this would be a level of a heavily played instrument. And the belt buckle wear, everybody's familiar with that. For years, before good cases, not to mention road cases, a lot of artist guitars were actually broken, but they all get worn around here. And the lacquer on them is so brittle and fragile that it will not tolerate any excessive wear. Fairly recently, I had a result that I was completely amazed by, and a material that I knew I could continually and consistently achieve this effect, and it was a game changer. I said, this is the future of aging a Gibson guitar. By learning about nitrocellulose lacquer, not being a chemist, but knowing there were properties there that had to be there to achieve that look. We're now refining that to an amazing result regarding the authenticity. In that journey through now into the aging of an instrument, you can always do better. So there was always another tool or another technique, because I would always compare my work to original instruments. Now there's a lab with my name on it. That's a big responsibility. We don't want to leave any stone unturned. We have to look at them and see if it's complete. If I do this, I have to show some binding worn through the finish right here. I just know that. Same with the antiquing we have on our binding. If it's worn like this is going to be worn off of the binding. That's how we judge everything, the level of aging and the condition of the guitar. And I always have to use the blue jean analogy, where some people like them soft and broken in, some people like them torn and ripped, and some of them like them really, really damaged. To go along with what appears to be wear on the guitar needs to feel like it's actually been played. Not damaged, just played and broken in. And where that comes from is a soft edge of the binding being rolled, which simulates having been played. If they don't feel old, it doesn't help to make them look old. So part of that, of our aging, creates an old feel too. The guitars sound great, whether they're shiny or whether they're aged. That's great. We got a head start there. But if we can make somebody feel like they're picking up an old guitar, then we really accomplished something. Not a single guitar comes out of the Murphy Lab that I'm not proud of. That's Murphy Lab.
This video was uploaded in March 2021 and marked the opening of the Gibson Murphy Lab, a collaboration between the Gibson Custom Shop and Tom Muprhy. What the Murphy Lab does is take guitars from the Gibson Custom Shop floor and add an aging process to them, a special finish with some touches like a checking, which is only achieved through the new formula for the nitrocellulose lacquer from the Murphy Lab. On top of that, they add the aged hardware and the Murphy mileage, meaning that they make the guitar look worn and played for like 50 years. The Murphy Lab provides 4 levels of aging that I'm gonna show you in a video a bit later. They are the ultralight, the light that I'm demonstrating a guitar from today, heavy and ultra heavy. Here they are.
Let's take a look at a few models from each level of aging. Most importantly, what to expect on each as far as lacquer checking, hardware patina, and other concentrated areas of wear. Let's start off with ultralight. I like to call these the time capsule guitars. We'll say that these have, definitely spent most of their time in the case. Maybe they've been played around the house, but nothing crazy. It hasn't seen a gig or anything like that. So you're still gonna have your VOS finish, and you're gonna get some minimal checking here. Very light checking all over the body and the neck and the headstock. What's cool about this is you have a little bit of patina here on the hardware and the hand-rolled binding on the fretboard edges here for a little extra comfort. Moving over to light, this is going to simulate 50 years of average play wear, a favorite guitar that's never really left the comforts of home. More intense lacquer checking, you're going to see some light dings, some pick trails, little finish flaking. You're still going to have your patina on the hardware, and of course the hand-rolled fingerboard binding for a little extra comfort. On to heavy aging. This guitar has been on the road for decades. It's seen some significant wear and tear. There's a lot of buckle rash on the back. We've got some arm wear here. You see some prominent checking throughout. We've got some neck wear. There's even some peg head face wear here. And then now you've got your Murphy Lab heavy aged hardware. And again, we have the hand-rolled fingerboard binding for that extra feel and comfort. Finally, ultra heavy. Like an old favorite that your guitar hero has been performing with for decades, our artisans here invoke half a century of heavy touring and mileage. On these models, you're going to notice heavy buckle rash on the back, heavy arm wear on the front, Murphy Lab heavy aged hardware. On the neck, you're going to see a lot more wear. Now we're introducing areas of exposed wood, peg head face wear. And last, you're going to also see the hand-rolled fingerboard binding here for a little more comfort.
I know you're probably wondering, why don't I just buy one of these beautiful custom shop instruments and play and age them myself? It's a simple question. The aging of a guitar doesn't occur that fast, doesn't happen overnight. The aging of a Murphy Lab finish is made to reproduce 50 or so years of usage. So either you have to own a guitar for over 50 years or you have to beat it up real bad like Slash does on his own guitars. Even if you intend to play the hell out of a new guitar, there is another matter that needs to be commented on. The new nitrocellulose lacquer finish from the Gibson Custom Shop is not the same like the Murphy Lab one. It just doesn't age the same. Watch this. This is a video of the YouTuber and a guitar tech Dr. Nitro. He basically takes an R8 custom shop instrument with the new Nitro finish and he takes it off to refinish it, demonstrating how soft the new Nitro is. That's not necessarily a bad thing. It means that when the wood moves due to temperature changes, the Nitro moves with it, making it more durable and looking fresh and new for longer. But it means that it will not check easily. For some people, checking is a desired effect and the Murphy Lab needs to achieve it in some way.
How does that happen?
Well, essentially, checking of the lacquer on a guitar happens from expansion and contraction of the wood and the lacquer getting so brittle and rigid that it won't tolerate the movement. And wood will move continually. I have a really old guitar from 1953 with a maple neck that played like a dream from 1978 when I bought it. The neck is amazing, feel straight, perfect, consistent. And in 1994, when I moved to Illinois, in a house with forced air, gas heat, I pulled it out of the case and the fret ends were sticking out. The neck had shrunk and the fret ends were exposed. I had never felt that before. So I had to smooth them down while the wood was there. That's 50 years old and it's still moving.
Right.
And so you have to, and I have a 52 J45 that in the winter I have to tighten the truss rod and in the summer I have to loosen it because I'm moving frets a little bit. So we have to find a way to cause that to happen.
Right.
Unfortunately, we have found a way.
Right, right.
And so the checking in general is as our foundation of the Murphy Lab product, and along with that comes the feel of an old finish.
Right.
So that's why essentially I say we're putting an old finish on your guitar. So keep that in mind while you're playing it, handling it, especially with the ultralight category. Be really difficult to keep that thing pristine very long or forever, because I had someone bring a Murphy Lab light, and they own a real 59, and it had a flake, a little tiny spot on the front, and he admitted he'd left it in his car when it was really hot. And I said, would you leave your 59 in the car? He said, no. And I said, well, you probably shouldn't leave the Murphy Lab like that either.
Right.
So that's not a flaw, it's just a reality and the nature of the finish.
Right. Yeah, you basically have a vintage finish on the
essentially,
which is what we were talking about my guitar, and that's what I love about it. That is what's going to happen to it as you.
That's
as
what
you
you're really supposed to love about it, and that's why we want everybody to know: if you buy a Murphy Lab product, a guitar, you have bought into the aged family of historic instruments.
Okay, I got this, but what if you want just the new Nitro formula without the checking? Also, another cool story from Murphy on how old finish reacts to temperature changes.
We have had requests for our finish on a guitar without checking, and I hate to say this, that's not real feasible.
That I think is the nub of it, isn't it? It's just...
It's going to check.
It's good because it's so on the edge. So I mean, again, perhaps explain even how checking occurs. You know.
Well, in my unscientific explanation, I lived in Colorado for quite a while. I left my Gold Top Les Paul in the van overnight because we'd gotten stuck in a blizzard after a gig. When I arrived at my apartment the next day, I got the guitar out, went to my apartment, opened the case. The entire guitar exploded, which really bummed me out because I didn't know I'd do that for a living someday. But anyway, I saw the effect, and I knew it was the cold that caused it. And like I said, real simply, wood is a living material. It has moisture content. It will move constantly. My J45, I sort of have to adjust the neck for summer or for winter if it's in dry heat or whatever. Yeah. And so you take a finish that is completely cured and dry and brittle, and you let the wood move slightly either direction. It's not going to go with it. So that's how checking occurs. Yeah. A dry, hard, cured finish that will not move with the wood.
So we're sort of going, if you can't have one without the other. You know, if you want the finish to be that sense that it's an old vintage nitrocellulose 30, 40 year old, you know, sunk in finish. Even if it left the factory with none or minimal checking, it's next to impossible to ensure that it will arrive at its destination like that.
This is the first time I'm going to say this in public, but I feel I used to take a new guitar with a new finish, modern finish, and try to make it look old with fake scratches. I feel now that essentially we can take a new guitar and put an old finish on it.
So in essence, the Murphy Lab guitars are new guitars from the custom shop with the old formula, the old finish. And I think I know why they don't let out these guitars out of the factory without the checking. Just think about it. For example, you have an old guitar, 50 years old guitar. It has been sitting in a case, gigged, it has moved, contracted, expanded for over 50 years. This means that the guitar will have a consistent checking on the top, back, neck and headstock. On the other hand, if you just get the new guitar with the old finish and put it in your car on the freezer or near your window overnight, it will just probably develop a huge crack across the top or something like that. It will not be consistent. Also, why would you just get a Murphy Lab without all their work? That's what the Murphy Lab is all about. The aging process, looking real, looking like a 50-year-old guitar. Another reason I think they don't do that is because checking occurs around areas that the guitar has been bumped in. If you notice the lightly aged guitar that I'm showing you, a lot of the checking marks start from slight bumps on the front. The Murphy Lab does that with special instruments. They tap on the top of the guitar, on the back, etc, etc, so they get this consistent result. Watch the two videos that I showed you, the Sweetwater interview and the Andertons interview. In them, Tom Muprhy demonstrates some of the instruments he uses to achieve these effects. And you're probably gonna be mind blown how simple and mundane some of them are. The essence of the Murphy Lab is this checking, the old finish, and the idea to make it look as natural as possible, meaning that the belt buckle rush should look natural, the rolling of the binding should look and feel natural. And I know these guitars are not for everybody. In the beginning of my guitar journey, like 12 years ago, whenever I saw a scratch on my Les Paul Custom Silverburst, I went nuts. Over time though, I learned to appreciate aged guitars. It's sort of a history marked on a guitar. Every ding has a story. You don't remember them all, some of them you don't remember how you got, but most of them have the story. The belt buckle rushes, the back of the neck worn from playing. It's, I don't know, whenever I get a guitar like this in my hands, like the 76 Custom that I have, the original one, it feels like a part of history. I know it's not a cup of tea for everybody. I know some people appreciate the new guitars, the brand spanking new finish. That's why you got the VOS finishes, you got the regular finishes, the new Nitro that has not cured, that has more plasticizers or whatever in the formula that keeps it soft and it doesn't check when the wood moves. You got that. It's a personal choice. However, I feel that there are two types of people that would buy into the Murphy Lab thing. The first category is obviously the artists, and I'm not talking only about Slash, Kirk Hammett, famous musicians like that. I mean gigging musicians. If you have been playing guitar for a while and you dream about guitars, you know that one is never enough. And having a couple of guitars and playing them all of the time is hard to do. You don't have the time for that, and you don't have 50 years to age a guitar. So a lot of musicians prefer to buy the Murphy Lab guitars, and they feel like fitting in a glove, like a perfect piece of clothing that you had for years. They just feel comfortable with the rolled binding edges and etc. So with a Murphy Lab instrument, you have the benefit of feeling that you have an old guitar that is comfortable to play. The other perspective is the collector side of things. Not a lot of people play as extensively as musicians, like gigging musicians. A lot of people don't play 3, 4 or 8 hours a day. They just take out a guitar from the case, admire it and put it back. If you are such a person, imagine trying to age a guitar the normal way. And I don't think aging a new guitar the normal way is possible because the new Nitro formula is obviously softer. I understand that some people are against fake aging, as they call it, but I don't think the Murphy Lab aging is any longer fake. Yes, Murphy used to do that with a razor blade. Imagine how painstakingly he had to do every checking mark. But now he has the new Nitro formula and the guitar checks normally. Looks like a regularly aged guitar that has been in a case for 50 years and gigged. On top of that, you have the option of choosing a level of aging. So the Murphy Lab is another choice. And choice is good. You can buy a brand new guitar, you can buy a VOS or any of the levels of the Murphy Lab. Before we talk about the specs, let's discuss the price. For example, this is a VOS finish standard R9 from the custom shop and it costs $6,699. It has the Nitro Vintage Original Sheen finish, which is I think again done by the Murphy Lab, but it doesn't have the Murphy Lab Nitro, and the first level that has this costs $500 more, and as you can see it's listed in the specs. So $500 for the finish alone. Then for the next level, light aged with slight treatment, you have $1,000 over that price. For the heavy, $1,000 more, and for the ultra heavy finish you have a little bit more, $1,400 to be exact. And for the artist stuff, the prices get crazy, but you gotta understand that recreating artist guitars is a painstaking business. That's gotta be hard to do. Of course, it helps that Kirk probably gave them the original greenie, so they didn't have to work by photos or videos, but still it's hard to reproduce every detail, and the price corresponds to that. And that's the affordable version. There was a $50,000 and $100,000 one. On to the specs, and since the Murphy Lab doesn't currently have a light aged green lemon fade, I'm gonna use the heavy aged one. It's basically the same guitar underneath, only the aging process is different. A lot of the Murphy Lab guitars don't even get listed on the Gibson website because they're meant for some shops like Sweetwater, etc, or direct customers. So here we have the specs for the 59 that I'm showing you in the video. 50 rounded medium C neck, Indian rosewood fingerboard, the nickel Murphy Lab aged, it should be light aged here, hardware, the ABR1 bridge, custom bucker Alnico, and the rest of them. Now let's review this thing. As I already explained, underneath that Murphy Lab aged Nitro finish, it's still an R9 from the custom shop floor, meaning that this is made out of a single piece mahogany for the back and two piece figured maple top. I'm not sure if they specially select the backs or the tops, but they seem like an ordinary pick from the custom shop. One piece mahogany neck, of course, rosewood fingerboard. If you haven't skipped the video, you already know the levels of aging from the Murphy Lab shop. Let's see if this one corresponds to the light aging level. It is the second level after the ultra light age, meaning that it should have the checking marks. All of the guitars have them. Some slight dinks and bumps everywhere. You see these? They're all over the top and the back of the guitar, and if you look closely you start to see the bumps everywhere on the top, and they are on the back as well. The bumps are more pronounced on areas that they usually happen often. The hardware is lightly aged by the Murphy Lab as well. What's most important and makes the guitar feel like it's been played are the rolled edges of the fingerboard binding, and all of the Murphy Lab guitars have them. Additionally, the binding of the body is also rolled on places where it gets in contact with the forearm. Check this out. I know it's hard with these guitars to demonstrate my point on video, but if you trace your finger like that, you start to feel the binding getting softer on these spots where the lacquer has been peeled. See this? No rolling here, but if I get over here, you can see and you can definitely feel it, and this makes the guitar extremely comfortable for playing. It's a small thing, but you can feel it. Check this out. This is my original 76 Gibson Les Paul custom from the Norland era that has mostly been aged naturally, especially the binding. Disregard the artificially peeled off top, but you can see that the binding is lighter in color than the rest of the body, and it has been rolled. Same as this effect that the Murphy Lab has achieved. I want to have another top-down view to demonstrate some of the dinks and checking marks. We have less of them here, some of them between the pickups where the pick attacks occur. Most of them are around the edge of the guitar where I know that most of you have bumped your guitars. Even if you try to save them, they get bumped on the corners of the guitar here and here. So this feels and look pretty natural. As Murphy said in one of his interviews, they don't just do random distressing of a top or a back of a guitar. Like these here are from pick attacks. All of the dinks, checking marks and stuff are supposed to be natural and supposed to look like a used guitar, not just somebody that took a guitar and banged it up. This is an accurate 59 replica, so it has the long neck tenon, and the truss rod is a no tube one, so you can see a small maple cap for it. Here you have the separation line between the two-piece figured maple top and the mahogany body, and a better look at the mahogany body and the routing. As I already mentioned, the only thing that it's swapped on this particular guitar are the pickups. The original ones are the custom Bucker Aunico 3 ones, and they're a bit softer. So the owner installed this Mojo Tone Bill Kelleher set of pickups, which sound pretty modern. The owner of this particular guitar, my friend, prefers the modern sounding pickups, so he swapped the Aunico 3s that are unpotted and are a bit squealy and soft for his taste. This set of Bill Kelleher's is pretty good, I'm gonna comment on it in a bit. Let's check the rest of the hardware. The 3-way switch with the beautiful amber Catalin tip. The switch washer is a cream replica cellulose acetate, and the pickup rings are a tongue twister M69 cellulose acetate butyrate. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing this right. A laminated cellulose acetate pickguard, and these are the party piece, the gold butyrate top hats. I'm gonna check this word. Oh, it's butyrate. That acetate butyrate definitely rolls off the tongue now, same as these beautiful knobs. The Bill Kelleher Hellbender set is definitely hot at 18.3 for the bridge position. Switching over to the neck, 1098, 11 is hot for a neck pickup, and middle position is 688. Here's a top-down view. I just cannot help myself, I gotta admire the beauty of this guitar. I cannot begin to explain the finish in person. I don't know if it shows better in video, but in person you're gonna appreciate this guitar, I guarantee it. The bridge is the ABR1, no wire, thumb wheel adjustable, and the struts go directly into the body as it should be on a 59. The tailpiece is lightweight aluminum and it has been slightly aged by the Murphy Lab. I think it has the VOS treatment, vintage original sheen. Since this guitar has just been set by a professional guitar tech, I'm gonna do my best to save the setup, so I'm not gonna move the bridge. I'm gonna show you the neck, then I'm gonna put the strings back on and demonstrate the rest of the guitar. Another thing worth noting is that the struts for the tailpiece are slightly more aged, they have rust in them. This happens due to damage from a screwdriver when adjusting or sweat from the palm of a player. Here's my 76 Custom with the original Tunematic bridge and the tailpiece. You can see that the bridge has collapsed a little bit and all of the damage from excessive use on it. This is what a Murphy Lab heavy aged guitar is supposed to look like. This happened naturally on my particular guitar. Here's a fun fact for you. 76 was the first year that Gibson used the Tunematic bridge on a Les Paul Custom. The owner of this Murphy Lab told me that. Shout out George. He's always teaching me new stuff. The whole channel rests on your shoulders, George. Bless you. Since you have such a heavy burden on your shoulders, Gibson made sure that at least your tailpiece is lightweight, like on my Gibson / Les Paul. Before I move on from the hardware and the plastics, I want to mention something that Murphy talked about in one of his interviews. When you have an aged guitar, regardless if it's a Murphy Lab or an old one, with the checking marks, with the dings and everything, a new plastic and shiny hardware stick out like a sore thumb. This particular light edge guitar is on the edge for me. Like, this is okay, the pickup rings seem a bit newer to me, the pickguard is okay, the knobs are okay. The hardware is okay, and especially the pickups. The original pickups included with this guitar, for me they were not aged enough for this level of aging of the Murphy Lab. In my opinion, the only thing that the Murphy Lab has to work a bit more on is the combination between the aging levels and plastic and hardware, especially on the ultralight and light levels. The neck is made out of a single piece mahogany as it should be, and it has checking marks on the backside. One ply royal white binding for the neck as well, that has been aged and rolled for better comfort when playing. Again, you can see it in the video, but it's better to feel it. Here it's sharper, here it gets softer. The wearing off or so-called rolling of the binding occurs naturally when you play. You're constantly rolling your thumb on the upper and fingers on the lower binding depending on which string and note you're trying to reach. This constant motion creates a softer edge for the binding over the years in areas that you play mostly, and here for the forearm. When you combine this with a perfect neck profile for you, it makes the guitar comfortable to play. Authentic medium jumbo frets on an Indian rosewood fingerboard and these beautiful inlays, cellulose nitrate trapezoid, and they seem to be selected perfectly for this beautiful guitar. Historically correct nylon nut. The headstock shows a lot of dings as part of the light aging process from the Murphy Lab. You cannot see the checking marks right now, Here's the Les Paul silk screen that has been slightly worn off, and the Gibson Mother of Pearl logo with the yellower Nitro finish on it and the dotted eye. Cluson single line, single ring tuning machines. Beautiful checking marks on the side of the headstock as well. Truss rod cover is single ply 2 screws. I've also noticed that the aging process has been applied on some of the screws of the guitar as well. Here's what the nut of the authentic 50s no tube truss rod looks like. Of course, this is brand new, so perfect condition. Here's a better look at that nylon nut, which was also featured in the Les Paul custom guitars in the 50s. The nut itself is 42.5mm or 1.67 inch wide. The 12 fret is at 52.5 or 2.06 inches. Thickness at the first fret 22.8mm or 0.89 inch. It doesn't feel that thick when you play it, honestly. The 12 fret is at 25.3, here it gets thicker almost an inch. Here's the thing about it, doesn't feel that chunky, and when that Murphy Lab Nitro wears off, it's gonna feel even thinner. And this is what the 50s medium rounded C neck profile looks like. Unlike the 60mm spacing for the USA standard guitars, the customs have a bit narrower spacing for the pickup rings and almost 2 inches of body thickness for a Les Paul standard, of course. Traditional 12-inch radius for the fingerboard and 24.75-inch scale length. Speaking of USA standard versus the custom shop, here is my slash signature Les Paul standard, which is supposed to look like the 59. You can see that the bridge, the ABR one, has the struts that go into the body. The pickup rings are lower as well. Unlike on the 59 that I'm showing you from the Murphy Lab, you can see how high the pickup rings are and the bridge goes directly into the body. These differences could seem minor, but they definitely affect the tone and feel of both guitars. Another difference between the USA standard and the custom shop, you can see that the tuners are different. The USA standard has the nuts in the front. Due to that, the headstock on the R9 looks slimmer. Now that the strings are back on, we can check that headstock in better detail, the checking marks, the nitro that has worn off on some places. You can see that it has to look like a satin. Here it is from a different angle. Of course, these headstock don't feature a veneer, this is a lacquer on top of the neck, unlike the Les Paul custom model, thus resulting in beautiful checking marks. Here's what the back of a ultra light edge Murphy Lab guitar looks like. You have the checking marks and slight dings. Also some light wear on the edge of the guitar where it normally occurs. And I can confirm from 15 years of experience handling guitars, I've seen them ding on places like this, and they usually wear off here. Some flaking on the finish as well starting to develop over here. Nothing in the Murphy Lab aging is random. They do it intentionally to look like a used guitar. Years of experience in playing. Check it out, the bottom side where the guitar usually gets put on a stand or on the ground. The most prominent dings are here. Rest of the hardware, you have your nickel strap button here, the output jack with the cream plate, and I'm gonna show you the electronics in a minute. And here's the custom shop diamond that most of their guitars use throughout the last couple of years. Here's the electronics, the CTS 500K pots, R9 marked on that beautiful maple top. The pickups are swapped though, so that's not the original wiring. Here's another detailed look of the checking and bumps on the back. When you point the light at a certain angle, you can see the checking marks perfectly like that. If you don't have direct light on them, they're hard to demonstrate. That's why in a lot of video demonstration you don't even see that it's an aged Murphy Lab guitar. That's the thing with these guitars, you really have to see one in person to be able to appreciate it. I know they look good on camera, but once you feel one of these in your hands, you start to appreciate the work of the Murphy Lab. I've seen a lot of drop-dead gorgeous shots of old guitars and Murphy Lab guitars. The Nitro looks like oil on top of them. I'm trying hard to demonstrate this for you on camera, but I hope you see it. It's like an oily finish on top of the guitar. Check some high quality footage of musicians playing old instruments on stage and you will notice that oily finish on the old guitars. The Murphy Lab recreated this perfectly. I can't stop touching this guitar. Same goes for the neck, you can feel the checking marks when you play it and they're gonna peel. This neck is gonna age faster than your regular guitars, than the new guitars, and that's a good thing. As Murphy mentioned, don't buy these guitars, especially the light and ultralight finishes, expecting them to last. These are brittle and made to age faster. So if you peel the lacquer of your neck, don't get bumped. It's a desired effect, it should age faster. Check out the checking marks, and you can definitely feel them when playing, and they feel a bit brittle. It's not gonna peel like a wrap, and it's not gonna happen overnight, but it's definitely gonna age. Here's the serial number and the back of these Clusen tuners. The screws and the casing for the tuners had been VOS treated as well. It's not light, it's not heavy, the perfect weight for a Les Paul standard 4162 grams. The custom shop case has some light age treatment to it as well. You can see it here on the latches. Some rust on them as well, but they function perfectly. White stitching here on the edge. The custom shop logo. Another latch, a locking one. And the leather handle with some black leather in the middle. I haven't seen one like this. Another latch here. Another on the bottom side. Support for putting the case down. And you open it up, you have the pink lining. Cushioning for the back of the guitar on the bottom side. You know what, this case seems thinner than the old ones, and the lid definitely feels heavier. I tend to almost drop it every time I try to close it. It's definitely heavier. And this is the compartment for accessories. Whoever made this case, I think it was made in Costa Rica, they were so proud of themselves. They put a sticker built like a fortress, but it's a sticker. And here's a cushioning for the headstock. You can remove it if you don't like how it looks, but I would keep this here for safer transportation. Also, I know it's historically correct, but why is this not a leather handle? And let's double check. Designed in Nashville, made in Costa Rica. So it's a Costa Rican fortress, I guess. Here's all the case candy laid out for you. First of all, we have some labels that are supposed to hang on the headstock if you display the guitar on a wall. We have the Gibson information for their social media, and this is information for the electronics used for the guitar, the Switchcraft output jack, the CTS pots. The certificate of authenticity for this instrument is enclosed in the pocket of the case. That's the Murphy Lab certificate. This is some information for a Gibson application phone. A spare switch tip, but not in the same color as the original. These break during transport, so when you're transporting a guitar, be sure to take off the switch tip. Even though it's not the same color as the original, it's good to have a spare. And these are the keys for the case. Now I'm gonna show you what this cool little envelope holds. Starting with a plastic cover for the 3-way switch. Originally the guitars get shipped with the Gibson Custom Shop medallion. But if you don't wanna mess up the medallion, you can exchange it with the plastic. Now some more information for the dealer. This note is included with the regular finishes as well. Basically, Gibson telling you not to display the instruments in direct sunlight because it affects the finish, especially the bursts. This cool little piece of paper giving you some instructions on how the 3-way switch and selecting the pickups changes the tone of the guitar. This is important note from the Murphy Lab, and surprisingly it's included with the VOS finish instruments as well, not only the Murphy Lab aged ones. This was also in the case of the next guitar that I'm gonna review, which leads me to believe that the VOS finishes are done by the Murphy Lab as well. And I know that the VOS treatment predates the opening of the Murphy Lab, but I think after 2021 they moved it there. If you think about it, it's logical. VOS treatment is aging. Opening the Murphy Lab provided space for people that do that kind of finish as well. Now this information is for the action of the guitar. Initially it's set for lower action, meaning that you have to strum lightly. If you want to pick harder, you have to raise the bridge. This piece of paper and the next two basically give you information on how to set up the guitar yourself. You would say, why would Gibson include this? I know how to set up a guitar, but I'm gonna tell you, a lot of times these pieces of paper are convenient when they're around. You don't have to remember all this stuff, especially if you don't do it for a living or you don't do it often. Instruction for a tune-o-matic, we have ABR, I guess it works the same. So it's cool to include all of this information, and on to the most important stuff. This is the warranty, has the serial number on the back and the exact model. Inside there is information regarding the Gibson warranty program. This is what the pre-pack checklist looks like. This is filled by the QC at the end of the process, serial number, date, and the exact model. Some more information on the inside. Here's something I wanted to check out for a while, the certificate. I wanted to see if the checking marks are real, but they seem to be printed. We all know the Gibson custom logo, but I love the Murphy Lab one, the letters LAB. The A is like a vial from a lab. Other than the cool print and the Murphy Lab logo is just your typical Gibson custom shop folder with the certificate inside. Here's something important though, it mentions the aging level, light aging. And I think that's gonna be important in 20-30 years when you're not gonna be able to recognize ultra light age guitars, for example. This is the box for the Mojo Tone Bill Kelleher Hellbender set, and I think I called it Mojo Gear a couple of times, doesn't matter. These are the original pickups that came with the guitar. The Alnico 3 unpotted custom buckers that are on a lot of these 59 standard and custom guitars, the PAF sticker on the back, and I don't think these are aged enough. The caps seem too shiny for the finish. Anyway, let's hear the Hellbenders. I got a lot to say about the Murphy Lab treatment, the finish and this particular guitar. I'm gonna try to be brief. First of all, I love the finish. I like it so much that it's hard for me to pick up a Les Paul Standard from the USA Standard line and not look at it like a very cheap version. I know that sounds ridiculous, but after seeing the Murphy Lab finish in person, every USA Standard like my Slash signatures feels like an Epiphone. I know they're amazing guitars, but the finish matters so much when you're talking about a 59 reissue guitar. This Standard just begs to be aged. Looks so much better with that finish. So, is the Murphy Lab Old Nitro finish worth it $500 over the VOS? Yeah, I think definitely it does. Are the next aging levels like the light, the heavy and ultra heavy worth it $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, $400 more? And that is something that I cannot comment on because it's a personal preference. What will I choose to play for a longer period though? I would probably buy the ultra light age and beat the hell out of it, or buy the heavy aged, if I don't have the time to beat it up myself. Regardless what you choose, the Murphy Lab aging seems natural and feels natural and looks amazing in person. It's a personal preference and you don't have to like it.